Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Primary Sources for History Research, Using Government Resources. My name is Bruce Barron, and along with my colleague, Larry Mello, we will be discussing valuable resources you should consider when doing research on U.S. or Florida history. So in this webinar, we will define the term primary sources, locate library research guides for online resources, demonstrate selected websites, and then we'll provide you with contact information. But first, what is a primary source? Well, a good definition is that a primary source is a document or physical object which was written or created during the time under study. These sources were present during an experience or time period and offer an inside view of a particular event. Some types of primary sources include original documents such as diaries, speeches, letters, interviews, autobiographies, official records, and news film footage. Primary sources can be creative works, poetry, drama, novels, music, and art. Primary sources can also be relics or artifacts, pottery, furniture, clothing, or buildings. Primary sources can include charters, correspondence, diaries, early works, interviews, manuscripts, oratory, pamphlets, personal narratives, speeches, letters, and documents. So now that we have an understanding of what a primary source is, I will turn it over to my colleague, Larry Mello, who will show some of the digital resources where you can locate primary sources.
Thank you, Bruce. So first, let me share my screen. And now you should be looking at the library's homepage. So the easiest way to get to the library guide that will has the information on primary sources, go down to Research Guides here, click on this icon, and it's really simple. Just simply type in government, and you can see I've typed it in once already. Click there, hit search, and the first thing that comes up, you'll click on this link here, Government Informations at FAU Libraries. This is the main page for government information at FAU Libraries. And you'll see that we have a series of tabs of many different information sources, which you'll want to go over to where it says primary sources and click on that tab. Now before your eyes, you will see the library guide dealing with tabs dealing with primary sources. As my colleague mentioned and gave an excellent definition of primary sources, we have it here also in case you need a refresher. Now, I'm going to demonstrate 4 different government websites or sites that pull information from other government websites. And I will explain that as I go along. So the first one I want to take you to is the American History Digital Collection through the Library of Congress. If I click on this link here, as I said, it says from the Library of Congress. So you know it's a credible website put out by the U.S. government. And this is dealing with digital collections. So in the age of technology, many of their collections have been digitally scanned and put online so researchers like yourselves can access it remotely wherever you are and have internet access. You can limit your area by subject matter, and they offer links and the number of results or pages dealing with those topics. And you can see other parts of the digital collection and Library of Congress collection as well. So for my demonstration of this website, I'm going to take you to Alexander Hamilton's papers. So here you'll see it says the title is a hyperlink, so you can just simply click there. And also you could it will tell you how many items are in the collection. So there's over 882 items in the collection dealing with Alexander Hamilton papers. So click right there. So across the top, you'll see what they consider and categorize as featured content and the thumbnails of individual documents that they have scanned. I can scroll down and it'll give you about the collection. Every part of the digital collection will have an about section, which will explain to you, the user, what the section is about and how it's important and relevant to your research. There's also other links to other resources as well, both from teaching aspects and expert level research. You can also search based on content. and descriptions of the series, and it tells you and breaks down the definition of each one. But for this demonstration, I'm going to take you back to the top and just show you a couple of the featured content. So the first one I want to demonstrate and show you is a letter from Alexander Hamilton when he was only 12 years old. So we'll click on that link. There's the title. It tells you what image it is in the collection and when it was written. And then before you is the digital copy of the original letter that's on display at the Library of Congress. The nice thing is I can either enlarge it by clicking on the icons here, or with the rollable on your mouse, enlarge it, or magnify it or decrease the size. But the really nice thing is with the quality of their website, as you enlarge it, you can see the quality of the writing. Not only is it enlarged, but it is legible. Some websites, the quality is not always there, and they begin to blur as you make items larger. And so you can see, oh, I do apologize. So as you see, you can read the entire letter as he penned it when he was 12 years old in 1769, and it was to Dear Edward. So this is one of the letters. I'm going to go back a page. Now, also one of the letters I want to show you is a letter to his future wife, Elizabeth. And again, you can enlarge it so you can see the quality of the writing. Now, obviously, if the one unique thing about writing of this time period is the script. So if you're not used to reading script, it could be a little bit hard. But you can see he's writing to Elizabeth. And this is actually taking place during the American Revolution. So he's writing to his future wife, discussing events as they are happening to his wife back home, or his future wife back home. And as you can see, and I can click on this little arrow, and there's other documents as well. Again, these are all been digitally scanned. So we're in the old days where you'd actually have to go to the Library of Congress and sift through their archives to look at these letters under special conditions. Now you can view them from the comfort of your home or anywhere where you have internet access. So again, that is the Library of Congress digital collections. So now I'm going to go back to the primary source guide. And the next link I want to take you to is the Chronicling America Historical Newspapers. The American newspapers are a unique entity of as far as a resource goes, because it can be both primary and secondary. In the case of it being primary, these would be newspaper and headlines that take place during the time of the event, not some a topic or paper headline and a retrospect look back at an event. So say if you're looking at, and as you can tell, the papers go, their collection goes back from 1777 all the way through 1963. They have a few digitally scanned up here, and I can also about area. But what I'm going to focus on is going to advanced search. And here you can see I can really narrow it down based on my state. If I know a specific newspaper title or run that I want to look at, I can narrow it down that way. And I can also narrow by date and date range. So we're going to just click on all states, and it will default to all states. And we're going to go to date range. Click here, it gives you the calendar that pops up. So we're going to go to a specific date, 1941. And actually, we want to go to December 7th. That's 1940. And we'll just focus on December of 1941. And for those who don't remember or don't know, 1941, December 7th was the day Pearl Harbor was bombed. And we're focused on just the 8th. So December 7th through the 8th. And your search boxes here, I can put in keywords. And as you can see, I've already done a search. So I'm going to put in Pearl Harbor. Now, one thing I will tell you, when you're doing a search with a compound topic such as Pearl Harbor, it's best that you put it inside quotations, and not just this particular search engine, but any database that you may use, or even just simple Google searching, because it will tell the system that you want to see that as one topic and not two separate words. So we have it in quotations. We have our dates looking at December 7th. Again, I don't need 1940. That would give me too many papers. There we go. That's strange. Why is it? When in doubt, you could type it in. I don't know why sometimes technology doesn't work. But again, we have our keywords. We're going to set it to all newspapers. We're going to hit search. And what's nice is it will give you the entire run of the newspaper. Or if you just want to look at front pages, I can click on front pages. And now we're looking at a front page, front pages of newspapers from the United States dealing with the topic of Pearl Harbor on those date ranges. And let's click on this one, Congress Votes to War, from the Detroit Times. So it'll tell you when it was published and when it ran. So this actually ran in the Detroit Evening Times edition, Detroit, Michigan. And it tells you the date range of when that paper lasted from 1921 to 1958. The nice thing is, as you start to see, you'll start to see these paint boxes. And if I magnify it, those are the keywords that we put in there. So you can see that where it's looking for articles or headlines dealing with Pearl Harbor. And again, now I can search and read the newspapers dealing with the attack on Pearl Harbor. And the nice thing is, like I said, just like the previous Library of Congress digital collection, as you magnify it or demagnify it, the quality stays perfect. And the nice thing about using digital newspapers compared to the old method is you can limit to single page runs and not have to cycle through large microfilm reels that could take a long time to find a specific issue. That's the digital chronically American historic newspapers. Again, goes from 77 to 1963, and they're all online through the Library of Congress. So now I'm gonna go back to the primary source guide. The next one I'm going to take you to is American Presidency Project. Click right there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some of these links that I'm showing you and that my colleague Bruce is showing you today are from the government resources, government sites. This one happens to be from the UC Santa Barbara. Now, the information that is on this site is from government resources. So things like from the president's papers and other memos and government sites that have collections on the president. So as you can see, it focuses on areas of documents, statistics, media archive, presidents, and analysis. And they'll have a hot topic up here. So the current hot topic is on how presidents concede. I can click there, and it will give you a little message and break it down and show you every president or every candidate who's run for president, or and when they the election was, when they seceded. Also, the date and time and when they did. Obviously, for those who know their current history, Donald Trump has never had a concession date. So it's listed there just as it happened. So now I'm going to take you back to the top. Now from here, again, you could search any one of these subheadings. I'm going to take you straight to the presidents. Because here you could search from, based on the president you want, and you could, as you hover over their image, you'll notice it gives you the name of the president and also the years they held office. And I'm going to scroll down. As you can see, it goes all the way back to our founding fathers and the first president of the United States, George Washington, who held office in 1789 to 1797. So I'm going to click right here. The nice thing about it breaks it down is it gives you a little bit of bio, tells you when they held office, how old they were when they first took the oath to hold office, their time on Earth and their birth and death, and in many cases, what political party or affiliation they were with, where they were born, their last office. So obviously George Washington's case, he was never a politician before becoming a president. He was the general of the Continental Army. And if they've provided the information, also give you their religious orientation. So he's an Episcopalian. There are other links dealing with George Washington. The thing I want to point out is what they call related documents, excuse me. And I can search by timeline, or I can search here um, various documents and dates. But I'm going to click on George Washington event timeline to show you how it expresses it, explains it. So here it tells you their terms, gives you the dates. Now, obviously, anything that is blue or hyperlinked is a digital item that you can click on. So we'll click on his first inaugural address, which was April 30th, 1789. And here you can see his first speech to the nation, as it was obviously it wasn't as typed neatly as this. It would have looked like the writings of Hamilton we saw earlier, but here it's been transcribed and typed so you can read it in its full content from start to finish, as he gave it to the young nation on that date. Then we'll go back to the previous page. And we know Washington served 2 terms, and he wanted to set the precedence that he was not to be king, that he was only going to run 2 terms. So if I scroll all the way down, and right here in September 17th, 1796, he gives his farewell address. And again, here's where Washington goes before the country, and he says his farewells as the President of the United States, and why he's stepping down, and his belief in that the system needs to move on with new blood or new candidates, as he said. So again, it's been typed up, it's easy to read, and you can go there and look at various items. Let's go back to the top real quick. And as I said, you can do this for any of the presidents, and they even have our current president, who was just newly elected and sworn in. So whatever documents as he creates them and they're put online will be there. But again, you could choose whatever president that you're doing research on, and you'll have primary sources from government websites. And again, this is all curated through UC Santa Barbara. Now I'm going to take you back to the primary source guide. And then my fourth one is called the Foreign Relations of the United States. Now you will notice there are 2 links here. For this purpose, I'm going to demonstrate the one that's through the State Department. It only goes from 1945 to 1980. The other one, which is through the University of Wisconsin, goes when it's originally started in 1861 to 1960. So we'll click here. Again, this version of it is through the State Department and the actual Office of the Historian. And you can see, again, as I said, I just mentioned, it started under Abraham Lincoln. And the Foreign Relations of the United States is basically a collection of official documents, historical records, and major U.S. foreign policy decisions, whether it be from telegrams to memos to meeting notes, and between ambassadors to the president, cabinet members dealing on specific topics as they arise, dealing with foreign relations with the United States. So I'm going to scroll down to John F. Kennedy, and it has his administration years there. I'll click on that. So from here, I'm going to scroll down, and a hot event that happened under his watch was the Cuban Missile Crisis. So I'm going to click on Cuban Missile Crisis and Aftermath. Now, if I wanted to, I can actually download the entire volume, or I can click here and look at individual documents one by one. So because it is a large volume, you can see there's 390 documents. We'll click here. And as you can see, they are given by dates. So I'm going to scroll down until, and the dates for that was October 16th through the 28th. That's when the actual Cuban Missile Crisis took place. So again, I could do pre-events and try to get information on understanding why and how these events began to happen and transpire. I can look at a transcript of a meeting at the White House. This was a meeting dealing with Kennedy, and I can click here. And here's the transcription of that meeting and who he's talking to. Nice thing is I can also link out to other persons of interest that would have been mentioned in during this event as well over here. And as you can see, there's memorandums, there's telegrams from the embassy in the Soviet Union to the Department of State. You can click here. So it's, like I said, it's really cool that you're getting able to access these documents, these primary source documents. So if you were doing a research paper on the Cuban Missile Crisis, you can easily come online and view these documents. You'll find documents through the course of the search that have, in some cases, were once secret or top secret. And if they're put in here for you to view, they've been declassified and with things that have been redacted. We do have the physical volumes in the library, but obviously due to current situation, they're hard to obtain. But you could easily come online to the State Department, the Office of the Historian, and view the foreign relations to the United States from 1960 to 1945 to 1980, excuse me. And those are the four links and websites that I'm going to demonstrate this morning. And now I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Bruce Barron. I'm going to stop sharing. So now you can share, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Larry, for showing us those interesting sites. Very useful. Let me go ahead and go back to the LibGuide. Here we go. And the first resource I'm going to show you also looks at U.S. foreign policy. This is called the National Security Archive. So let me go ahead and click on that. This is using government information, most of it unclassified or documents that have been received via the Freedom of Information Act by George Washington University. I have it defaulted here to briefing books. Briefing books is really the best place to start, I think. They're a one-stop resource which covers a full range of topics on U.S. foreign policy, containing from 5 to 100 plus documents. So in each of the books, you'll see an introductory essay, but you'll see a lot of photos, videos, and important documents that have been retrieved by researchers. If you look at the tabs up front here, you'll see that this is not the home page. From the home page, you'll see the most recent things the most recent activities rather, of the National Security Archive, but you want to go to postings to find these briefing books. There's also obviously some other places you can search. This is a great site, but right now I just want to concentrate on the briefing books. So the briefing books contain information on most of the topics that have been most widely researched. Now you could search these over here by subject area, and you can see just the broad subjects if you're interested in things like cyberspace, or you're doing research on NATO or Russia-US relations. You can search by subject. You can also search by region, or you can search by events. So these would be kind of the most important events that they have information on. And that's where I'm going to start my search or my browse. And I'm going to go to the Chile coup d'etat of 1973. Now, some of these topics go back to things such as the dropping of the atomic bombs in World War II. So it goes back to 1945, basically, but most of them will be things that have occurred since the 60s. So there's all kinds of information here about what happened, the U.S. Involvement in the cover-up, or in the Chilean coup d'etat, which toppled the democratically elected government. This was kind of brought about by President Nixon and Henry Kissinger saying that they had nothing to do with the coup d'etat, and people kind of suspected otherwise. So through the years, there had been various Freedom of Information Act actions done by various groups or congressional investigations. And finally, President Carter declassified a lot of this information or made available um, things that were in the State Department but hadn't been released. So this first one, Allende and Chile, is kind of an overview of what the other ones are, and it has some very interesting documents. Um, I'll go after reading the narratives. You can go to some of the primary source documents, and the first one includes the actual memorandum written by Henry Kissinger to President Nixon after the election of Salvador Allende to the presidency in Chile. And let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's see here. Yeah. So this is the actual memorandum that was released. And basically it outlines that the administration was going to do two different things. One thing, it was going to say publicly that it would be hands off, and that it would respect the democratic choices of the people of Chile. But in secret, they were going to actually work to undermine the government, and as it turned out, did that. So you can find some really interesting documents from a lot of events in world history that the U.S. were involved in, and that's the National Security Archive. So the next resource I want to show you comes from the Smithsonian Institute, Smithsonian History and Culture. As you can imagine, there are a lot of good resources here. There's a lot of material artifacts, pictures of material artifacts on all kinds of cultural subjects. Uh, Something as interesting as playtime, toys, games, and puzzles. This would be kind of a snapshot of raising children in the 1960s, what kind of games were being played. You see they're already collecting different kinds of first person stories about the quarantine that we're currently going through. But I'm going to use the search box here, and I'm going to search for materials related to the Japanese internment. So I'll just put Japanese internment, and I'll click search here. Okay, so you'll see in any of the searches that you do, it'll return websites, collection images, archival materials, exhibits, stories, a lot of first-person stories, videos, and then an all button. So I'm going to go to collection images. And if you look over on the left here, ways to uh, make your search a little bit more precise. You can do it by topic, by date, resource type, place, or group. I'll look under resource type, and I'm going to do some searches in photographs. I'll hit update search. Now almost all of these photographs are copyright free, so you can use them in a paper or a presentation, and they really kind of bring to life whatever subject you're trying to talk about. Here, for instance, are pictures of the camps themselves, and here's a pretty good one of a camp in Heart Mountain. Most of the camps were out west, places like Idaho, um, and as you can see, this Japanese family here, Japanese American family, many of them were second, third generation Americans, and they were uprooted from their homes and made to live in these shacks, which had no insulation, uh, a stove for heating, and no plumbing facilities, no indoor bathrooms. They had to go outside for that. Some of them were in places that were really cold in the winter. So as you can imagine, over 1,000 of these internees died. And these photographs kind of bring it back to life. You can also discover a lot more about the Japanese internment from first-person stories that you'll find here on the site. You'll find those under stories, and under archives you'll find maps of the camps themselves. So the Smithsonian is a great resource for primary sources for a lot of historical and cultural events. So back to our primary sources LibGuide. So the next two resources I'll talk about are Florida resources. So I know there's a lot of students doing research on Florida history topics. So let's go to the Florida Memory Project. So the Florida Memory Project is is created by the State Library and Archives of Florida. The best way to search is simply to go by Discover. You can discover photographs, historical records, things like the Constitution and letters, ephemera, and other historical records. I've got lots of maps, or audio, and lots of videos. So under maps, let's take a look at some historical maps. We'll go browse by coverage, and then we'll go to territorial Florida. So let's say you're doing research on the Seminole Wars. So we know that those occurred in this time period. So here is a map from McKay and Blake's of the theater of war in 1839, which is towards the end of the Seminole Wars. But here you see a really good map of South Florida. It kind of puts everything in perspective. Here you see Lake Okeechobee, here are the Everglades, and one of the things I like about this map is it gives researchers ideas on ways to expand their research. It gives the name of a lot of forts. It gives some of the situations of the time. And this map shows, if you look at the writing here, it says district assigned by the U.S. Seminole arrangement by a certain general in 1839. Of course, the war was still going on past then, so not all the Seminoles agreed to it. Here's a fort there right in the middle of the Everglades. If you look at the lake, right north of the lake, there's the Battle of Okeechobee occurred right here, December 1837. And again, if you're doing research, you might want to look at some of these forts down here that played a role. Here's Fort Lauderdale when it was actually a fort. Here is Fort Dallas, which was the beginnings of the city of Miami. Here's an interesting thing, passage for small boats across the Everglades. And there's a little passage there. So this is a map. Again, you can use this in your presentations or in your papers. There's no copyright to this, and it tells you a lot about what was going on in Florida during the Seminole Wars. So the last Florida resource I want to show you is the Palm Collections site. This is from the State Universities of Florida. And as you can see, there's a lot of different themes here. Everything from aerial photography to, here's one on Coral Gables, Big Cypress, the Everglades. A lot on Florida science. So if you're you're doing research in science history or environmental history, here these are good sites. Florida Environments Online, Florida Heritage, and then you see a great deal of other collections which you have access to. I want to just do a sample search, and we'll go under the Florida Heritage Collection. This is a digitization of materials that broadly represent Florida's history, culture, arts, literature, sciences, and social sciences. If you're doing, say, research on tourism, this would be a good place, research on the natural environment, and the like. So let's click on View Collection. Now, there are some pathfinders and pre-selected topics you can look at here, or you can just use the search box. So if there's a topic that you want to look at, I would suggest just putting in the search box, and we'll do a search for hurricanes, because we all know that Florida has a long history of hurricanes, and they have had an effect on the state's development. So when I do the search here, I've got 65 hits. And since we live in Palm Beach County, I'll go to Palm Beach hurricane of September 1928. So this book would be out of copyright, so you would be able to use the images. Takes a while to open it. So let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So this is the hurricane that occurred on Sunday afternoon, September 16th. And as the first paragraph says, the Palm Beaches in the coastal region of Florida, from Pompano in the south to Fort Pierce in the north, were struck by a hurricane of terrific violence, doing an enormous amount of damage and resulting in the loss of about 1,800 lives. So this is the first person account of this hurricane. Now here, and this is written, got to remember, this is written in 1928. Uh, Future historians have tended to call this the Okeechobee hurricane. So if you do research, you're going to see it listed as Okeechobee hurricane, not Palm Beach hurricane. And that's because most of those lives that were lost were around the lake. But this tells you what happened. Some really good photographs of damage that was done. And you'll see for each area where where there's damage and where significant activity occurred. There's a narrative about what happened. So you see some of these pictures. These are West Palm Beach, and the devastation was pretty extensive. There's one picture here of bodies being picked up from the Belgrade area. So unfortunately, like I said, that's, if you know anything about the hurricane, that's where most of the casualties that happened. So if you're in the site and you want to go back to where you started here in the Palm collections, we'll just go back. And you can do another search, or you can go ahead and change the collections you're looking at. You can go straight to the Florida Environments Online, or any of these other great resources from the state universities of Florida. There's a lot of resources here on the page that we haven't covered, so I invite you to take your time and look through a lot of these. And I think you'll find some really good resources. So I will go ahead and close this by getting back to our LibGuide. So I will get back to our PowerPoint so I can show you the contact information. Hold on just a second. All right, sorry about that. Let's see if we can get this open here. Go back to the Okay, there we go. So if you want more information or you'd like to contact us, do so at govinfo@fau.edu, or you can contact me at bbarron@fau.edu, or Larry at lmello@fau.edu. Be sure to contact us with any questions, or if you're looking for something that you're not able to locate. So we thank you for attending this webinar, and we will look for you in future webinars. Thank you very much.